Hi everyone, and thanks for joining us for our Global SU Share Fair. I'm Carol Keller from Illinois in the United States, and I'm here to share with you actually two stamp sets, but the main one that I'm focusing on is called Sending Support, because I have a friend who's having some health issues right now and I wanted to make her a card, so I thought this would be perfect to feature for our Global Share Fair because it helps me out too. If you are watching, please say hi in the comments so that I know that you're here. And I am going to turn my camera around so that we can get started. So if you get dizzy, just close your eyes for a few seconds while I get set up, and then we will get rolling with today's card. Here we go. All right, I'm going to pull myself up to make sure I'm also live and in the right place, which hopefully I am. And we will reposition. Let's see how that looks. Let's see where I am. Good, I'm in the right place. And we'll put the light on. It's very cloudy here today in Illinois, so the more light the better, right? And it looks like we can move down just a little bit. No matter how many times I do it, it still needs repositioning every time. It's crazy, but okay, here we go. Here is the card that I designed for today. Like I said, it uses the Sending Support stamp set, and I'm going to show you that right away just so I don't forget at the end. It has a bunch of different sentiments, and some of them coordinate with each other, which is what I really like because you can put something on the outside and something on the inside as well. And so that's what we're going to do. We're actually going to use 3 of the sentiments from the set. And a lot of them, again, are, you know, sending support as the title of the stamp set says, but there's also a good luck. And you've got this, which is support too, but kind of in a different way. And I just love it. I love the way the sentiments coordinate. So I'll show you that as we go along and use them. And for the flowers, I'm using the Beautifully Happy stamp set. And we're using almost all of the ones that layer for the, well, all of the ones really that layer for the flowers. So I'll show you that too. There are also some sentiments on this stamp set. So birthday and thank you and thinking of you, that kind of thing. So they coordinate nicely together. And I think this is pretty quick and easy so that you can put the cards together, do a bunch of them really quickly, which is the other thing that I was going for. And both of those actually are celebration offerings because it is the best time of the Stampin' Up! Year, celebration. And so we will be having the opportunity to earn lots of items for free, and those are 2 that you can earn for free. So talk to your demonstrator about how to do that if you don't know already. All right, it looks like people are watching. Hi, Deborah. Hi, Shirley. So let's get rolling with the card. I am starting with a basic white card base, and I know it doesn't look like that. I tend to like to layer the color on the outside and keep the card base usually basic white, not always, just so that it's easier to write and stamp on the inside without having to add a layer there. So I guess it's kind of 6 of one, half dozen of the other. You add the layer outside or you add the layer inside. And so I am adding for my first layer a rich razzleberry layer, and so it's the same size as the card front. So in inches it is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and in centimeters 10.5 by 14.9. I'm going to put that on with my multi-purpose liquid glue. It's getting low, so hopefully it will last to do this, but I think it will. Oh yeah, that's good. A little more right there. All right. And of course, we use the multi-purpose liquid glue so we can get it right exactly where we want it on the card front. Perfect. And we'll set that aside to dry for a minute. And now my next layer is just a little bit shorter. It is 4 inches by 5 1/4 or 10 centimeters by 14.4. And we're going to do some stamping on this. So we're going to start. I've got my Memento black ink pad. And actually I'm going to pick it up because we're going to do it this way. And I have the largest flower bouquet from that Beautifully Happy set. Get some good ink coverage on there. And we're just going to put that over on the left-hand side. And this is a nice set because if you wanted to, you could stop here and just use some other medium to color in. You could use your colored pencils, you could use your water painters, you could use your blends, but it also has the stamps that layer, and to me that's a little quicker. So we're going to save some time and we're going to use the stamps to layer the color on. I think though, while I have the black on the inside, we're going to do the small flower. So I'm going to bring this in while I have my Memento black. And do that, bring that back over, and I've got my little flower for the inside. And I'll tell you when we get to that, give you some tips for making sure you know how to put the layer of color on, because I did have some trouble with that, but I figured it out. And we're going to do the same thing on the envelope. Put that aside for a minute. And we are done with our Memento black. Get that out of the way. And now the fun begins as we layer the color. So let me see here. I moved my blocks around and now I'm a little discombobulated. All right, we're going to start this way. We are going to start with shaded spruce and our leaves. Move this here. And now the best way to do this, of course, is to be standing or to have your head right over, and I don't want to put my head in the camera. So I am going to stand up and hopefully be able to line this up as well as I did here, because what you do is get as close as you can so that you can see the outline, and you should be able to lay it right on top. Let's see if I did it. All right, pretty good. It's a little bit off, but that's okay. It's handmade. And so I am good with that. And I'm going to clean that stamp just because I need that block again for the next part. So just give me a second here. And now we're going to bring in the flowers, the next layer. Actually, I'm going to put that aside though. We're going to finish using our, of course, shaded spruce. So I have this stamp that colors in this section. And so that's what we're going to do with the shaded spruce. And the same thing, you see where they line up. There's a piece here, and there are sections here, and then this whole section here. So if you watch, I'm kind of watching on the bottom and lining it up that way. And I can see it's a tiny bit off, but that's, again, that's pretty good. I'm happy with that. And then we do have shaded spruce on the inside. So let's bring that in. Or do we? Actually, maybe. Oh, yeah, we do. Yes, yes, yes. There are lots of little pieces. When I looked at this stamp set, let me bring it back in for a second. There were all these little pieces, and I thought, what are those for? And I figured it out. This goes here, and that's what we're going to use next. So again, we need that shaded spruce. And let me find it. Here we are. And so again, this goes here. And we'll do the same thing on the envelope. And get that done. And now our shaded spruce, I believe, is done. So last but not, or not last but not least, but the next color we're going to use is the rich razzleberry. And now we're going to bring in the flowers, change it up here, and do the one on the front. I like these too. They look like distinctive stamps because they layer the color. It's not even all the way through, and I really like that. I don't know if they're meant to be distinctive or not. Same thing here. We're just gonna line up with the outline. And so there we have the flower on the outside. And this is where it got tricky for me. I'm gonna move this out of the way for a second, switch these up to do the inside. I could not figure out which way that flower went. And what I should have done was look on the case, because that showed me the way it goes. Because there's this part that dips down, and when I looked at the flower itself, it didn't make sense to me. But then I realized this little section underneath the flower also gets color. So that's what that is. That's why it dips down like that, which means it goes this way because the little dip down part is here. So you'll see on mine, it doesn't line up because actually it's upside down, but I think it looks okay. So that's the good news, is it works either way. But let's line it up like this and see if I can do a better job. Oh yeah, look at that, lines up beautifully. And the same thing, I'm gonna do it once more for my envelope so we can get that finished. So that is the trick for the flower that I had such trouble with. Look at that, beautiful both times. Okay, so our inside flower is done and our outside flower, and now we're gonna do sentiments from that wonderful set. So for the outside, it says, there are so many ways you might feel right now. Get some good ink on that. And we're just gonna put it up here. Oh, that's right. And because they are red rubber and not photopolymer, I like to double check, and it's more important for the inside one in this case, I think. But we wanna make sure it's straight. So I'm bringing in my grid paper, and I'm gonna line up the letters with my grid paper and see, that one's good. That one's pretty straight. So I don't have to make any adjustments. I'm just gonna line it up and stamp, and it's good. But for the inside, here's what I changed up. When I designed the card, I'm using two different stamps for the inside sentiment, but when I did the first one, I stamped them separately on different blocks. And then I thought last night, wait a minute, I can line them up and do them together. So you can see that looks very crooked. It looks like they don't line up. But what I did was basically lay the first one out and put the second one up against it because it did look like they were straight this way. So this is what's important because this is what gets stamped on the card. So again, I'm bringing in my scrap. I'm going to ink it up. And I'm going to go for the Here For You Always and put that on the line. And it goes up just a tiny bit. So I'm even okay with that, or we can make just a slight adjustment. Put it down just a pinch. And look at that, perfect. So hopefully that makes sense. So even though that top one looked so crooked, that's just what it looks like on the front. It's not what it looks like on the back. It lined up beautifully that way. So that's what you want to keep in mind, is what it looks like here, and to use your grid paper to line it up so that you don't have issues. And so that's almost the last of our stamping. We just have one more little detail to do, but we are done with the rich razzleberry. And another one of the little tiny pieces from the set. Oh, that's right, we have two. This one, the round one, goes here for the center of that flower. And so I'm going to bring in crushed curry for that. And this one, it is very hard to tell which way it goes, but basically you just want to center it over that space and it works. So that one's pretty low key and easy. And I believe the other stamp is still in the case. Yes, because I didn't want to lose track of it. And let me just switch out on the block. And this one is for the inside and the envelope. Sorry, I keep switching back and forth like this, but I want to use all the colors together. And so you see the thicker part of this is on the bottom, so I want to make sure I have that oriented the right way and ink it up. And you can just see where that white section is, so that's really easy to layer. And then the same thing one more time on the envelope. And then this is the last of our stamping. So I think this is a pretty quick card that you could do multiples of. So that is why I like it. I like that the coloring part of it is really just stamping, and so it's quick. All right, now we're going to give it a little jazz, a little step up. So I need my ribbon. And like I said, I used shaded spruce for the ink, but I don't have shaded spruce ribbon. So I pulled out my evening evergreen, and I think it goes really well. So keep that in mind, that you don't necessarily need to use the exact same colors. Often they will coordinate, other colors will coordinate with the one you used. So I'm going to get some glue dots. All right, it looks like people are liking the tips. Good. Yes, I love to put 2 sentiments on the card. And I really wanted to use, I thought they coordinated so well together that I definitely wanted to use them both for the inside. Make really good use of that set. And Sue says she loves that I stamp the envelope. Always. There has to be something on the envelope for me, always. Either pattern paper, I'm going to leave this here because we're going to need it again, either pattern paper or stamps, or sometimes both, because it just adds that finishing touch, I think. All right, so we've got our base of Evening Evergreen, and all I'm going to do is just tie a little knot, so I don't need my glue dots anymore. I'm just going to feed this underneath. You could tie a bow if you wanted, but it's so low, you know, towards the bottom of the card, I thought it would overlap too much. So we're just going to do a knot. And I am going to bring in my glue dots because I put one underneath that knot just to hold it in place a little bit. So kind of getting it with my fingernail. And then that holds it in place. And we'll give it a snip. And this one too will make it a little shorter. And I always cut it at an angle because I like that. And so now it's time to put it on the card. And for that, I'm going to use my Stampin' Seal. And I'm going to do it this way because I always overlap the ribbon with my seal to give it an extra layer of adhesive. And we're just going to center it. You could even turn it off center. Maybe we'll do this one off center. That works too. To again, just give it a little bit of interest. And then you can decide which one you like better. And then last but not least, of course, the bling. And for this, again, I'm using the 2021-2023 In Color Opal rounds, which has Evening Evergreen, but it doesn't have Rich Razzleberry, and it doesn't have So Sap or Crushed Curry. It has the In Colors, and I used them anyway because I felt like it coordinated nicely, despite the fact that they weren't exactly the same colors. So I'm using the smaller ones. So Evening Evergreen, and I think we're going to put this is actually Fresh Freesia. Put that one here, and then we're going to put what's the other one? I'm trying to read it oh, Pale Papaya. No, is that Pale Papaya? I think it is. So that one's going to go up here. And so, like I said, even though they're not exactly the same, I think they coordinate nicely. What do you think? And that is it. That is our card for today. I hope you like it. I hope that it gives you inspiration to make some cards of your own. And I want to say thank you to everyone who joined us on the Global Share Fair. Remember, because I know we switched up the times a little bit today. I haven't even had my coffee yet. I think this is pretty good for me not having coffee in me yet to have presented. But since we switched up the times, remember too that you can watch everything on replay. I'm going to be doing that myself because I've got some catching up to do with some of the beautiful cards and presentations from last night and earlier today and yesterday morning even, at least in our time zone. So remember that you can watch on replay. Remember that if you want to place an order, you need help with that, reach out to the demonstrator who invited you. She can give you all of the information about Celebration and catalogs if you need them and all that good stuff. And remember too that our next Global SU Share Fair will be March 17th and 18th. So please join us then if you can. Put it in your calendars. And of course, we will send information or post information in the group about that, the schedule and whatnot as it gets closer to the event. All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me and us on Global Share Fair. And happy stamping.